Been a minute since I did a previous video, so welcome back to the channel. My name's Jackie, and today we are talking about Fujifilm cameras. Well, this is the first time that I've owned more than one camera at a time. 2 years ago, I bought a second Fujifilm camera, which was the X-S20. So I have the X-S20, my X-T5, and now I have an X-E4. And what I wanted to talk about today was just some of the user experience frustration points between the three menu systems in the custom modes. If you're not familiar with how the Fujifilm menu system works, depending on the camera, there's several ways to set up custom modes, which you can save the settings and then easily switch between them for different shooting situations. Whether you're doing photography or doing videography, you can customize and switch them each way. So let's just start off. So this is the X-E4. The reason that I got it was I wanted a camera that I could just go out and take pictures with without having all of the other settings and all of the other things to worry about. And it's similar to like an X106 or an X105 in that it's nice and small. It's kind of like a point and shoot, except this one does have an interchangeable lens. So I get all the advantages of using all of my Fujifilm lenses that I have with this nice little camera. And I've collected quite a few smaller lenses, especially lately, that this would work out well for. Okay, so let's get back to what I was talking about. I want to just cover the differences in the custom menu settings. So when you go into the Fuji system, you're going to either have a dial on, as like on my X-S20, where I've got a C1, C2, 3, and 4 as an actual dial mode on the camera, so that I can quickly switch settings just by changing the dial. So there's no movie or still switch on this camera, on the X-S20. There's no movie or still switch on the X-E4 as well. But the differences between these two and how you set the video is completely different. So you use the drive button here to tap that, and then you can toggle back and forth between still and movie. And what this means is that in this case on the X-E4, there's really only one movie setting. There's 7 custom settings for photography on here. You can customize C1 through C7, and you access that through the menu. But they're not for video. The only way to get video is to hit the drive button, switch over to movie mode. It does remember your settings, so whatever you've set the movie mode to be, it will remember that. But there's no way to set up multiple movie modes on this one, on the X-E4. On the X-T5, you have 7 custom settings, and you can toggle between still and movie on the camera. There's an actual physical switch that lets you switch between the two. So when you're in still, you can customize 7 settings for different types of still photography. You can also customize 7 movie settings for different types of video that you want to record, whether it be slow motion, or you want to do an F-log, or you want to do a film simulation, or you want to do one at 60 frames a second and another one at 24 and another one at 30. So you can set all of those up. You can give them custom names, and you will see those names show up when you are in the Q menu. Plus the Q button here, it lets you know I'm in C2. Mine says Video IBIS here. If I wanted to switch, I can just toggle the rear command dial. Now I'm in Video Tripod, which is C1. So basically I set up this one to be where the stabilization was turned off because it's going to be on a tripod. And then on the other one, I set it up where it was going to be IBIS. So that means I'm going to be hand holding this one. And then of course it'll remember all of your other settings on here. The one thing that is nice on the X-T5 is when you are in the Q menu, it tells you the name, the custom name that you've given that particular custom mode. So it says C2 Video IBIS, right? So I already know just by looking at that which one I'm on. Jump over to the X-S20 and it's a whole different story. There's no visual indicator on the Q menu of which custom mode you're in. Now there's only 4 custom modes on my X-S20, but if you were to use maybe like an XH2S, you get 7, and I'm assuming these are very similar. I looked at the menu for an XH2S online and they look similar as far as the setup goes. One of the really different things about the X-S20 that threw me off in the beginning was this whole option of when you are in the IQ menu, at the very bottom, there's something called custom mode setting. And it's got an icon for a camera and an icon for a video. So when you go into that menu, you see a visual representation of the dial on the top of the camera. It says C1 through C4. It tells me which one I'm on, which is C3 in this case, because it's highlighted in green. And then on the side panel there, it shows you what you assigned to each one of those, whether it is video mode or whether it is still mode. So that's all you get to do in this particular menu option is choose whether that particular dial setting, like C1, is assigned to be a still or assigned to be a video. So initially when you get this, you're going to think, okay, so I only can set up 4 and that's it. But the reality is, it does remember the settings. So if I was to go and switch C1 to stills, and then save all the still settings, and then come back here and switch it back to movie, it will remember the movie settings that I last used on this one, which is a bit confusing in the beginning because you're not sure. And then let me show you why it's confusing for the most part, because when you go up to Edit, Save Custom Setting, you're going to see something really strange. It says C1 through C4. I've named them Still 1, Still 2, Still 3, Still 4. And you'll see on the side, the 2 bottom ones say Assigned. And so basically they're assigned to the photography, because that's the icon. The photography icon is the one that's showing here. The top 2 are blank. And it's not intuitive as to why. They should be showing you the movie icon next to those because that is what they are set up for. But the name says Still 1 and Still 2. So basically it says, I've got the Still 1 settings, but it is not assigned for stills. So it's assigned for something else. It just doesn't tell you that it's assigned for video. But of course, you only have 2 options, so you have to assume the other one is the video. But this is very confusing, and I found this difficult to remember where to come in to change these things, because when you do switch over to a video, now they say movie 1, movie 2, 3, and 4. So, and it says the top 2 are assigned to the movie. Now this is great if you're in here and can read this and you finally figure out how this works. Good luck. Yeah, it's just very poorly thought out, truthfully. I have to say, it's like this has just been thrown together, this menu system for the custom. My big issue that I had, and I did a video last year on this, is that when you go to the Q menu on the X-S20, there's no indication here what mode you're in. It says C1 at the top corner, but you don't get your custom name that you've assigned it, which for me would be, you know, movie 1 or still 1, whatever you did assign it to. You don't see that. Instead, you see this mashing of words. It says select custom setting, and then that runs into the next word that says shooting mode. I'm assuming, you know, the E is cut off there. You don't see that. And then it says shutter priority AE for automatic exposure. So, and you see the S there. And so that shows you that you're in shutter priority mode. And based on the settings that are showing up here, I can assume I'm in a movie mode. But I don't get my custom name. So it's hard to remember where I'm at on this one. Going over to the X-T5, the drawbacks with this, there's not many, but the drawbacks to this are in regards to the custom settings. Of course, you have no dial for custom settings like you do on the X-S20, but on this one, you do have a still mode and a movie mode switch that you have to toggle. So to get to the movie modes for the custom settings, you've got to be in movie or you got to be in still for the stills. So that's one thing that you've got to do. When you go to the Q menu, delightfully, and I say that because I'm happy, it does tell you the custom name that you've given it. It says C1, select custom setting, base settings. So that's the name I had given this one, was base settings. If I go to C2, it says Reala Ace. If I go to C3, Acros Y, and C4, I've got set up for Reggie's Portra. And when you're with the X-T5, when you're switching between stills and video, you have to remember to do two things. You've got to remember to switch the switch here to still or movie, and then you've got to remember to adjust your settings here. Just to summarize really quickly, the most confusing custom menu settings are on the X-S20 out of the 3 cameras that I've got. And I have found that even though I've had this camera for quite some time, I still struggle with where to find the settings in there. And I do think that the entire menu system could be overhauled in a lot of ways. I have no idea why the custom settings are in the image quality menu. And then when you're in video mode, they're in the video menu. I just think that's more of like a camera setting for those modes. It just seems like it should be designed better, just laid out better. What are your thoughts on the menu system for Fuji? Do you have more than one Fujifilm camera? And if so, do you struggle remembering how the menus operate? Do you use the custom modes? And do you give them names? And if you have the X-S20, do you find it as confusing as I do? Because I'd really like to know. Anyway, I'm glad to be back making videos after taking a little time off. And thank you for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.